Hi everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of Panels to Frames. On today's episode, we're going to be covering the 1950 film serial Atom Man vs. Superman, and talk a bit about how the first Superman actor, Kirk Alyn, felt about playing the titular hero and what happened after he stopped.
Ready?
Always.
This film is notable for bringing back essentially everyone that was in the first one in 1948, from producer Sam Katzman to director Spencer Gordon Bennett, and all 4 lead actors, Kirk Alyn, Noel Neill, Tommy Bond, and Pierre Watkin as Superman, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Perry White, respectively. And they added Lyle Talbot as Luthor, aka Atom Man, as Talbot had previously worked with Katzman and Bennett on Batman and Robin the previous year. By this point, Superman actor Kirk Alyn was becoming a little disenchanted by the role, finding work hard to come by because of his association with it, and actively looking to avoid being typecast. But producer Sam Katzman convinced Alyn to come back, paying him $10,000, just under $100,000 in today's money, to star and make public appearances to promote it. The plot of the serial was actually very loosely adapted from a storyline on the Superman radio show that ran across 38 chapters in 1945, with one of the main differences being that the movie brought Superman's arch-enemy to life, Luthor. He wouldn't get his first name, Lex, for about another decade. This was the first time in any media outside the comics that Luthor had appeared, skipping out on the radio show and the first movie. Who Luthor is really isn't explained that much, likely because producers thought audiences were already familiar with the character through the comics, or simply didn't have time to introduce him, and he acted like somewhat of a mad scientist as he was interpreted to be in his early days. This would be his last live-action appearance until 1978, as he didn't appear in the next movie nor in any episodes in the George Reeves TV show. But kids did get to see him in the New Adventures of Superman and Super Friends cartoons. And after this serial, Lyle Talbot's face was used as the model for Lex Luthor in the comics until the 1960s.
Now I'll find out who you are.
And the story goes something like this. Superman's arch-enemy, Luthor, is threatening Metropolis with his ingenious machines, but Superman is there to thwart his evil deeds, and Luthor is ultimately arrested and sent to jail. But even after he's behind bars, Metropolis sees a crime wave thanks to the mysterious Atom Man and his new device that allows spontaneous travel. With Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, and Clark Kent on the case, and the inevitable help from Superman, Atom Man's plans start to unravel. Despite Superman's greatest foe using his most nefarious device yet, the Empty Doom, Superman and his friends figure out that Atom Man and Luthor are one and the same, and foil his plans, saving the day once again. Just like the first film, this one was a runaway success. With better reviews than the first and profits soaring, being one of the most successful serials ever made, studios were clamoring to continue to cash in on Superman's popularity and were thinking about a TV show. And like so many other Sam Katzman productions, his tactics to keep the movie's budget low were on full display. In addition to hardly paying the actors, even though the flying effects are improved, there are over 30 shots of Superman or others in animated form, and they are often reused clips.
The Atom Man!
The helmet for Atom Man was an old prop from the 1945 serial The Monster and the Ape, and the overall costume is very cheap. Several quick scenes and setups are reused footage from the first serial, including a speech in Part 7, where Luthor spends literally 5 minutes of screen time explaining Superman's Kryptonian origin to one of his henchmen, and hence the audience, and explains it away by saying he pieced it together from scientific articles about Krypton, all while using footage from Part 1 of the first serial. One of Luthor's inventions, and the most powerful deterrent to Superman, is what he calls the Empty Doom, which sends people to an empty space basically between the physical world and nothingness, and resembles the Phantom Zone in concept, although the Empty Doom came over a decade before the Phantom Zone. And in the first part of the movie, Luthor is shown using a device to destroy a bridge in the city, and the footage used is actually from the real-life Tacoma Narrows Bridge incident in 1940, which, due to a construction error, swayed back and forth until it eventually collapsed. Also of note, one of the stuntmen and actors in the film is named Wally West, the same as the second iteration of The Flash that would appear in DC Comics 9 years later and kicked off the Silver Age of comics. Although there doesn't appear to be any connection between the two, the man and the character sharing the name seems to just be a happy accident. After this movie, Kirk Alyn felt he was done with the role and didn't want to come back, as he felt he was being pigeonholed into superheroes, highlighted by the fact that after the serials had come out, He couldn't walk down the streets without someone saying, "Hiya, Superman." Simply put, he wanted to do other things, even though he was offered to reprise his role in the first Superman feature film and TV show. Allen said in an interview in the early 1970s that he was given a low-ball offer to return, which made his decision not to come back an easy choice, and the studio brought in George Reeves to take over. And 8 years after the serial, 6 seasons into the TV show, after the untimely death of Reeves, there is some evidence to suggest that producers of the TV show did consider bringing back Allen, who was 48 at the time, to replace the deceased Reeves, but that never materialized, and the series ended. Ultimately, Allen's fears about being typecast weren't without merit.
The public knows that I'm always glad to cooperate with the police in preventing crime.
After the serial, Allen would only appear in a total of 12 films and TV shows between 1950 and 1983. All but 2 were uncredited, and he even took a role playing another DC hero in 1952, Blackhawk. Apparently, the thought among producers was that audiences saw him only as the Man of Steel, which relegated him to small roles in commercials. Some believers of the Superman curse point to this being the start of it. But during the 1970s, 20 years after Allen left the role, superheroes started to come back into favor, which opened the door for him to appear at increasingly popular comic conventions and college shows. And for the 1978 Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve Superman, Allen and Noel Neill were given cameos as Lois Lane's parents. And in interviews leading up to the film, Allen seemed to come around on the character and experience, saying, "You know, if I were given the chance, I'd like to do it all over again. The money wasn't much. It was mostly a labor of love. But today especially, I'd relish the chance to play Superman. The role has taken on a special importance. It's a vital part of Americana. It's an exciting role, a challenging role, a fulfilling role. I would love to do it again." Within a year, everyone who was involved with the serial was replaced, including actors, director, and producer, and a new continuity started with the Adventures of Superman film and TV show, although Noel Neill would eventually take over as Lois Lane in the TV show 3 years later. The cast and the crew had made 2 of the most successful serials ever, in both commercial and critical sense, and primed audiences for several decades more of the Son of Krypton. But ultimately, these 2 serials have been all but forgotten to the sands of time, as they were 2 of the last gasps of the film serial era, and have been overshadowed by the adaptations of future generations. Maybe that's fair, maybe that's not. For all its obvious flaws and low-budget quality, they made it work, even with Superman sometimes being animated. There was one man for the job, and it was a job for Superman. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're going to have a lot more videos coming out pretty soon. On the next episode of Panels to Frames, George Reeves enters the picture.